2 weeks. That's how long Highguard had. Just 16 days after launching, the studio behind it, Wildlight Entertainment, laid off most of its staff.
Pretty crazy, that's right. Highguard launches in just 7 weeks on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. It is insanely fun to see, fun to play, as you saw in that trailer.
You sure about that? You sure about that?
Multiple developers on LinkedIn today confirmed that they were out. Wildlight later issued a short statement confirming layoffs, but saying a core group would remain to support the game.
That escalated quickly.
But let's be honest here, when most of your team is gone in less than a month after launch, that's not a routine restructuring, that is a complete collapse. So what happened here? How did a studio founded by Apex Legends and Titanfall veterans, debuting its first game in the final reveal slot at the Game Awards, end up here? And also, why is Geoff Keighley's name suddenly all over this story? Well, let's break this down step by step. Honestly, the problem on the forefront of everybody's mind is the Game Awards reveal and the hype problem that Highguard had,
pushing the shooter genre forward with a new original game.
Highguard debuted in the Game Awards at the end of 2025, and this wasn't just placed anywhere in the show, it was the literal finale of the entire show, not the closing slot, not some small moment, it was the biggest spotlight of the entire show. Geoff Keighley also put his touch on it and introduced and hyped up the game as an exciting new project from industry veterans. And now everyone knows that the finale slot carries weight. Historically, final reveals at the Game Awards are massive. Think major franchise announcements and unexpected reveals. Instead, audiences got a new free-to-play hero shooter. And the reaction, well, nobody should be surprised, muted, skeptical, and in some corners outright negative. Immediate concerns from the fan base included another hero shooter in an oversaturated market, limited gameplay clarity in the trailer, and confusion about what actually made Highguard unique in the first place. In the interviews later, Wildlight CEO Dusty Welch admitted that they might have used the wrong trailer and that even suggesting the reveal strategy didn't land the way people had hoped. Originally, the studio had considered a quieter rollout and possibly even a shadow drop strategy, but according to reporting, Geoff Keighley was particularly enthusiastic about showcasing the game and the opportunity that changed the plan. Now here's where things get a little bit messy, because once the game launched and struggled, some fans began blaming Geoff Keighley directly. And what's even crazier is at launch, Highguard didn't even completely flop. It reportedly hit nearly 100,000 concurrent players on Steam at its peak. That's really not nothing considering games like Arc Raider sit at around 200,000 active per day, but the drop off just a couple days later was steep. Within days, player numbers fell sharply, Steam reviews landed in the mixed area, and in some cases leaned negative. Common complaints about the game included server issues, balance concerns, confusing gameplay loops, a lack of clarity about objectives, and difficulty onboarding new players. Some players said the core idea was interesting but a little bit messy, and in response, Wildlight actually moved pretty quickly. They shifted from 3v3 to a permanent 5v5 structure, they fast-tracked episode 2 of content, and they tried to respond publicly to feedback. However, live service games, as we all know, live and die on retention, and when a free-to-play shooter loses momentum in its first 2 weeks, the clock starts ticking faster and faster, and in Highguard's case, however, way too fast, because shortly after and this morning, layoffs hit. Developers began posting on LinkedIn this morning, saying that unfortunately, along with most of the team at Wildlight, I was laid off today. Others saying this one really stings as there was a lot of unreleased content I was really looking forward to, and that line kind of matters because it tells us something really critical, that there was more content coming and planned for the future. Highguard wasn't necessarily abandoned creatively, it just didn't survive financially. Other employees, engineers, artists, and designers echoed similar sentiments, but were clearly blindsided by the event. Wildlight's official statement confirmed layoffs but said a core group remains to support ongoing development. But realistically, when most of your team is gone within the first 2 weeks of launch, the roadmap changes dramatically, and that's when really everybody turned their sights back to Geoff Keighley. Highguard's player counts dropped off and reviews turned from mixed to straight up negative. Social media backlash was ripe and began targeting Geoff Keighley. The accusations ranged from overhyping the game, giving it an undeserved spotlight, misleading audiences, and having a financial stake in its success. Keighley responded publicly stating that he had absolutely no financial stake in Highguard. Epic's Mark Rain even defended him, saying that his enthusiasm was genuine, not transactional. But here's kind of the deeper issue about that. When a platform curator elevates a game to its most prestigious reveal slot of the year in the finale, it creates expectations. And when those expectations aren't met, disappointment looks for a target. Some players felt like the Game Awards spotlight implied a level of quality or innovation that Highguard didn't deliver, but what's clear is the reveal amplified expectations and amplified the backlash even louder. And what was really the core problem with Highguard in the first place is that it tried to introduce another hero shooter in a brutally competitive live service shooter market, especially in an era of player fatigue towards the genre itself. Highguard realistically needed to have a much clearer identity and overwhelming polish in order to succeed in the market. Instead, it launched with mixed clarity and early friction. The marketing clearly mispositioned the game, the reveal was overinflated hype, the gameplay onboarding was confusing to players, and the market timing was working against it. So the story of Highguard isn't just a story about one game failing, it's about the volatility of modern market development, it's about the volatility of modern multiplayer development, the power and risk of major showcase marketing, the speed at which public perceptions form, and how quickly studios can collapse in today's industry. Just remember guys, 2 2 weeks, that's how long it took for the game to go from high-profile Game Awards finale to having most of the studio laid off just a couple weeks later. That's the life cycle of a live service gamble in 2026, and I wish every game developer out there the best. But that's all I really have on today's topic, guys. Make sure you toss a like and follow, and I will see you guys on the next one.